Hi guys, before this episode actually starts, I had some audio dropouts, and due to the fact that I don't actually know what I said, obviously, during those dropouts, other than if I was to literally just check through my notes and read verbatim what's in those, I've just cut out the bits that drop out. I hope that's okay, and enjoy the episode. Greetings, lovely people, and welcome to Fast Track Thoughts. Today we're going to be talking about the 2021-2, whatever you want to call it, New Year's Day special, Eve of the Daleks for Doctor Who. And, yeah, of course, spoilers ahead, this is a thoughts video, so this is my raw notes and thoughts and all that kind of stuff. Roll that intro, and we'll get into it. Quite honestly, this episode this episode started on a bit of a questionable note for me. The idea of resetting the flux using a TARDIS reset does make sense in the grand scheme of Doctor Who. I just think it's a bit of a cop-out, and it's something that they could have very easily done at the end of series 13. Sorry, I've been doing a lot of American stuff recently. So, it's very much a thing for me of, like, resetting the flux is, one, really basic, and two, kind of a weird way of doing it. But in any case, I'm not going to gripe on that too much. The flux stuff, I'm so over. I'm actually kind of happy they just kind of glossed over it. But yeah, when the Doctor is resetting the TARDIS, she warns that, if you're inside the TARDIS, you'll die. Which, is a good warning. I appreciate that she warns her companions. But why were Yaz and Dan not already out of the TARDIS by the time the lever was pulled? Like, surely, the companions of their own agency, they should have left the TARDIS before the Doctor pulled the lever. That could potentially kill them all if they don't get out in time. I don't know. Or at least the door should have been open, or, I guess if the Doctor had used the snap, Tennant did a lot and 11 did a lot to open the door before pulling the lever, I would be like, okay, that's fine, then at least they have a quick escape. I don't know, it just seemed a little bit weird. They end up in Manchester. We knew this already. We knew that was going to be the setting, and we get a great line from Dad, which made me laugh a lot. Manchester of all places. As someone who goes to Manchester a decent amount, quite likes Manchester. There's a lot of nice stuff there. I like the people. I just found that really funny because I hate Liverpool, but, I don't know. But yeah, that was a really funny line. I really enjoyed that from Dan. And quite honestly, that does set up this episode how I'm going to continually praise it for. It's really funny. This episode's actually, got a lot of really good jokes, and it's consistent. There's nothing that really falls flat. There are some moments where I think they were supposed to be jokes and they just weren't really, done quite perfectly, but overall, this episode was so much fun. It was very funny, and just generally, I enjoyed it. That's my review right there. I enjoyed this episode. This episode was so good. So we're introduced to Sarah and Nick. Sarah owns this storage unit facility, and Nick is a customer at this storage facility. I'm not going to get into the whole thing of Sarah working on New Year's Eve, because I will get into the reasons why it all happens a little bit later on. But yeah, Nick has there's a little meet cute moment, which I don't really care for, but Nick then goes to his storage unit. It's absolutely massive. He has a ridiculously big storage unit. It's kind of incredible. And he's also apparently the only customer at this storage warehouse, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, he has a massive storage unit. It's just full of random knickknacks that he does label, and I will once again get into that a little bit later on. A Dalek magically appears. We don't see it teleport in or anything. It just appears, and we do later see them teleport in. So I can understand that they just didn't show the teleport, and that's fine. But yeah, the Dalek just magically appears and kills Nick. Yeah, we just got introduced to this character, and he's dead. And obviously, the entire plot of this makes sense of it, but yeah, Nick is introduced and 2 minutes later is dead. It's kind of shocking, and that throws us into our title sequence, which is just very interesting. But yeah, deadliest creature in the universe is what the Doctor refers to the Dalek as. Not completely inaccurate, but I'd also say there are technically, especially from Chibnall's era, there are creatures that are more dangerous than Daleks, and it's been proven time and time again. The fact that every New Year special in this era has been Daleks, and they've been defeated somewhat easily each time, I don't know whether I want to say that, they are actually the deadliest, because they seem pretty easy to kill. Something that I did notice, especially early on, I didn't really notice it as much towards the end of the episode, because I think I just got used to it. The Daleks seem very eloquent in this episode, and I don't know if it's just because I haven't had, proper Daleks for a while, so I'm just kind of used to them talking in just, a few words at a time, but no, these Daleks really like talking, and they are really good at it, which is, I don't know, I probably need to rewatch, Dalek and, a few other Dalek-centered episodes just to, refresh myself, but I don't know, it just seemed a little bit overboard with how much they were talking and how clear it was and how, well-spoken they actually were, but that's not a complaint, that's just a thing I noticed. These Daleks have miniguns, which is really interesting, though I do have my issues with that, mostly the fact that, regardless of having miniguns, they miss a lot of shots. And I know it's the Stormtrooper logic, it's the idea of plot armor and stuff like that. I'm fine with that generally. I just think if you're going to give them a minigun, which is something that they don't typically have, I know they had it in last year's New Year special, but yeah, I don't know. When it comes to them having a minigun, I think that they should be able to hit more shots than they do. That's just a mini gripe, though. I don't really care too much. We have an entire altercation about how the Sonic has blocked the Daleks' weapons, which I don't believe is the case. I may just be remembering something, misremembering something, or just lacking to remember something. But the Sonic isn't usable against Daleks in a typical sense. It can be used against Daleks, and it has been. It can deactivate the eye stalk. It probably, you know what? The more I'm thinking about it, it probably has been used to deactivate weapons at some point. It's just not something I quite remember. But the Daleks basically say that they've learnt and they've evolved and they no longer are affected by sonic devices, which is, kind of cool. And everyone's dead. And that is the first full reset. And just a little thing, I'm very much planning on doing a Dead Meat style kill count of this episode. I think that'd be really fun. So if you're interested in that, comment below and like this video, just to let me know that you're interested in that. But, yeah. Because it was very early in the episode, basically said to my parents who I was watching it with, why couldn't that be the setup to the regeneration? Why couldn't the Doctor regenerate this episode with that first death, Why do they have to do Groundhog Day? But, as I say, I like this episode, so I'll let that slide. This episode's actually made me kind of like 13, which is a first. But yeah. They all wake up, the 5 main characters, so Sarah, Nick, Yaz, Dan, and the Doctor, all come back, kind of miraculously, and they have deja vu, which you would in a Groundhog Day situation, and it's kind of cool how quickly they all pick up on the fact that these things have happened before. Is usually in something like this, it's a lot slower to realise. I think even in Groundhog Day, like the original film, it takes him a few cycles before he realises he's, trapped in this loop. But yeah. I thought that it was a temporal lock, basically trapping them in, because they find that there's a force field holding them into the building. It turns out that it's actually just Dalek tech. It doesn't seem to be anything to do with time, or it might actually even be based on the fact that the Daleks say that it's not them. It could just be the shield around the TARDIS that's actually locking people in. It's kind of hard to tell. It's never really cleared up fully. I'm calling it a temporal lock. It's not really that important. I just thought I'd mention it. They never call it anything. And to me, it looks like a temporal lock. I don't know. It's hard to tell. Sarah is really brave against Daleks. And she is throughout the story, so I'm not going to call it, I'm not going to say, oh, it's inconsistent or anything, because, no, she's really brave towards Daleks. She never flinches, really, towards Daleks the entire episode, which is, fair enough. If you want to have a brave character, that's perfectly fine, especially against Daleks. That's fine with me. It just initially seemed a bit weird. But yeah, Sarah is brave. That's her character trait. The Daleks start threatening the Doctor and stuff, and the Doctor has a great one-liner of "says you." That's the reply to death threats, I'm pretty sure. I didn't write down what the Dalek said, unfortunately, but yeah, the Doctor just replies, "says you." And that's great. We then have the second reset. I'm not going to call out every reset just because I haven't written them all down in my notes. But upon reset, Dan calls it a Groundhog Day. Which is hilarious because that is what this story is. And I was thinking they weren't going to reference Groundhog Day. So, yeah, they actually reference it. The Doctor actually says it's a time loop, which is more accurate to the events, of Doctor Who. But, yeah, it's really nice that they actually do reference Groundhog Day when, this episode is very much inspired by it. And similar stories, Groundhog Day I don't think was the originator. It's just the most popular version of this story. It's just nice to reference it. I enjoyed that they referenced it. So, there is a really good joke about the psychic paper saying that the Doctor, Yaz, and Dan are council workers of some description, and Nick makes a joke about how it's unlikely 3 people working for the council would turn up on New Year's Day, or New Year's Eve, rather, which, pretty accurate. It's a good joke. I say this episode's really funny. It has a lot of really good jokes. I'm not going to be able to retell fully, but I've just written down the ones that I thought were especially good. The Doctor does some pointless scanning with the Sonic, as per usual. I'm not really going to argue at this point. I don't know what this means. I put Dalek is a stupid nan, and I'm pretty sure something in that sentence is misspelt. But yeah, Dalek is a stupid nan is in my notes. That's fun. Then... Oh, that's the thing. So... Oh, boy. Basically... We have the sacrifice play against a Dalek of Nick. Nick tries to sacrifice himself in exchange for the rest of them being let go. Obviously that doesn't work, they're Daleks, and it would never work. I know that Nick isn't supposed to know that, but it happens so often, and if this wasn't for the fact that it was a Groundhog Day episode, it would just be another pointless death to a Dalek that the Doctor could completely, prevent. But in any case... Why doesn't the Dalek have a cutter? They trap themselves in a storage locker with a metal door, and if you remember back to Bad Wolf and, the Ninth Doctor finale, basically, you'll remember that those Daleks have the little claw that has the cutter device, the little flame cutter item that they use to break through doors. Why don't these Daleks have that same thing? And eventually the Dalek does end up using the minigun as a cutter. It's just way less effective because apparently Dalek lasers aren't super hot. They're not capable of cutting through sheet metal, which is kind of weird, but I'm willing to let that go. The Doctor, or rather the Daleks reveal that they are hunting the Doctor. That is their purpose. They're after the Doctor. We have a reset, and then there's 2 Daleks. Which is interesting, because if this is a time loop, that means that the Daleks must have already been there, or the Daleks are in control, which is what it's revealed to be. But yeah, 2 Daleks just randomly appear. I thought it was going to be the Doctor actually references it as maybe it's an echo from the time loop occurring. I thought that was actually going to be it, that it was going to be the same Dalek multiplied. It's not, it's different Daleks, but that would have been a cool idea. It'd been interesting to see that. I'm fine with them not actually doing that though, because it would have brought up some weird questions about why there weren't multiple Doctors and Yaz's and Dan's and Nick's and Sarah's, so it is what it is. Dan makes a sacrifice play in order for the Doctor and Yaz to be able to get some more information, which is, it's perfectly fine. Dan does make the sacrifice play fully knowing that he will be fine because there should be another time loop. But yeah, it wastes a bit of the Dalek's time, gives the Doctor and Yaz a bit more time to find out information and, kind of scan out, figure out what's happening in the building. And, yeah, we have a really cool conversation between Dan and a Dalek of Dan basically pretending that he doesn't know what a Dalek is and saying that it's an automated worker for this storage unit. And yeah, then we get the great line of Daleks do not have managers, which is it's very funny. It's also, I'd argue, not accurate because there's the Dalek Supreme, the Dalek Leader, there's Davros. Manager is a loose term in this instance, but I don't know. I thought it was a good joke there. I really enjoyed that. And Dan just runs around the Dalek for a bit, and the Dalek just fails to shoot him, as in literally ring around the rosy right around the Dalek. And He could have just continued to do that for a while until he got winded, I suppose. But I guess that wouldn't have made for entertaining television. Though I thought it would have been funny. But yeah, we saw it earlier. But in one of the rooms, in one of the storage units, there's beef and beans, just thousands, hundreds of thousands, tens of hundreds of thousands of cans of beef and beans. So yeah, that's a thing. We keep having references to someone called Jeff, and I'll get to who I think Jeff is at the end, and I'm going to actually check it live, but yeah, we get references to Jeff, who's another person that works at this storage unit. Fair enough. We get a repeated line from the Doctor that was actually said earlier in the episode by Sarah. I didn't write down the line, so it obviously didn't affect me that much because I can't remember the line, but I did notice it was a repeated line when the Doctor hadn't heard that line before. So it was a little bit odd, but it is what it is. The Doctor on this reset leaves Dan and Yaz, and well, first off, actually, we have the idea that Sarah and Nick Nick has a crush on Sarah, and they stop for a while to talk about this. Sarah is a bit too loud and attracts the attention of a Dalek, and Nick dies because of it. They could have just continued to run, not talked about this unrequited love or crush or whatever it is that they want to call it. But yeah, in the end, they both die anyway. The Doctor makes a note of saying that the Sontarans are the reason why the Daleks are annoyed at the Doctor. Like, the Daleks shouldn't be annoyed at the Doctor, they should be annoyed at the Sontarans, but like the Daleks just don't care. Like, they just want to kill the Doctor, and they're just using the fact that the Sontarans wiped out most of their species as an excuse, basically, which is, I don't know, it's a bit dumb, but it is what it is. I don't really care all too much. We have a line towards Dan when he says that he's alive of "Don't get cocky" from the Doctor. Once again, it's just a good joke. I just thought it was funny. Then we have a line from Sarah referring to Nick as a good-hearted weirdo, to which we get a focus on Yaz, to which I say, the Doctor is not a good-hearted weirdo. Stop it. Stop it, Yaz. Stop it, Doctor. Stop it, Dan. All of you, stop it. The Doctor has shown herself not to be a good-hearted weirdo. She's just a weirdo. She's not good-hearted a lot of the time, especially towards Yaz. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Nick doesn't survive past 11:55 in any of the previous loops, so they have to make sure he stays alive. Nick manages to do the obvious thing of ducking between two Daleks, making the Daleks kill each other. Pretty interesting, pretty smart move, honestly. And we actually see Yaz showing real emotion. And I know that sounds like I'm calling her Amanda Gill out for that. I'm not. I think she is a phenomenal actress. She's just not been written or directed very well for most of her tenure. And it ended up pretty well. I really enjoyed watching her actually be scared, actually be, kind of worried about the situation. What else? Yaz actually showed some... Right, so we have this idea of sonic ventriloquism, which is the idea that using a phone and the sonic, you could set up a beacon that would set off the Dalek sensors to say that there's humans in an area where there actually isn't. It's an interesting idea. It's not really utilised all too well in this episode, but it's something that I think is a reasonable use of the sonic. They actually explain it, so it's it's perfectly reasonable. It's not just randomly scanning something until it works. So yeah, sonic ventriloquism, interesting idea. Not utilised all that well, but still pretty cool. With the elevator, and also makes it just too dark for anyone to really know what they're doing. Smart move, realistically. And sorry, this is the reset at which Yaz and Dan are left alone by the Doctor. And we basically get a scene of Dan just being like, Yaz, you've got to tell her that you like her, because this is getting out of hand, the fact that everybody in the universe knows you like the Doctor, but you will not admit it. And it's a quite touching scene. Once again, Yaz actually having emotion really helps. Honestly, I'm surprised at how good Yaz is in this episode. Dan was actually really enjoyable as well. I haven't really mentioned him too much, but Dan has been really fun this episode, which was an issue I had with him most of last series. So yeah, Yaz has finally got a personality, and Dan is actually enjoyable now. So I'm loving the companions right now. Then the companions, Dan and Yaz, are cornered by Daleks, two Daleks. They are stood in between them. They could just duck, but instead they just let themselves die. Here's what it is. It's just, of all characters, the companions should know to duck under Dalek fire, but it is, as I say, it is what it is. It's fine. And then on this reset, we have the Doctor shouts at Yaz again. But you know what happens? Something that I've been asking for forever. The Doctor immediately apologises, realising that she's hurt Yaz's feelings. Who would have thunk it, eh? Who would have thunk that it would take this long for the Doctor to get self-aware about the fact she says mean things towards Yaz? Because, like, we've had apologies, but they're never immediate. They're always, like, way after the fact when the damage has already been done. This was literally, the Doctor literally stopped what she was doing to be like, no, that was unfair of me. I'm sorry, Yaz, but I need you to do this. Like, sort of deal. I think that's great. It's character development. It's a shame that we only have 2 episodes left of these characters, but, like, better late than ever, I suppose. And then we have another loop where the plan is not to follow the plan, basically to mess with the Daleks because they've been able to predict them at every move in the other resets. It's alright. They basically have an entire altercation of taking the Daleks on a wild goose chase to mess them up. And we have a really good line of Daleks don't have friends, which is very funny. It's also very sad. And then on the final reset that we see, the 8th reset, we have the Daleks being really easily tricked. Basically, the Doctor uses the Sonic to mess with their night vision, uses the Sonic ventriloquism, like had been set up earlier in the episode, to trick the Daleks into coming into the basement where there's a bunch of explosives, and then when the Daleks shoot the explosives and the fireworks and stuff, they all blow up. But how are the Daleks that easy to trick? But in any case, as I say, fireworks are there, so it sets off some New Year's fireworks. It's all very, very, very cool. And, yeah. Then the guy from The Woman Who Fell to Earth appears. Like, the guy from the first episode of 13's era. And I'm going to quickly just look up... it's the guy who Tim Shaw is after. I'm going to just do this live because I don't remember his name. But if that's Jeff... If that is Jeff, I'm going to be so annoyed because I'm not at the same time. Give me a second. I'm literally on the TARDIS wiki trying to just find where... No, that guy is Carl Wright. So randomly, Carl Wright is in this episode. The character Carl Wright. Why? Because, as I don't remember that character's name. I have not watched The One Who Fell to Earth in a long time. So I didn't remember that guy's name, I just recognised him. So yeah, Carl Wright from The Woman Who Fell to Earth is in this episode right at the end for no reason. Other than, I guess, to tie up the storyline, to show that Carl Wright went on to have a good life or something. I don't know. I don't care about this character. I don't know if anyone else does. But yeah, the guy from Woman Who Fell to Earth, Carl Wright, makes a cameo. That's cool. I don't get why, but yeah, it is what it is. And at the end, as the Doctor, Yaz, and Dan go back into the TARDIS, we have a line about how time is catching up with the Doctor. Yaz tries to push the Doctor to actually talk about it. The Doctor just sidelines it, as always. And yeah, it ends with Sarah and Nick going on to travel to the airport to travel the world. So, you know, it's a nice ending all in all. And right, from this point, we're talking about the next episode, the next special, the Easter special, I believe it is going to be. And it's The Legend of the Sea Devils. You heard that right. The man who brought back the Silurians in The Hungry Earth and Cold Blood, Chris Chibnall, is bringing back the Sea Devils, and I've been wanting the Sea Devils back for a very long time. I thought that they should have come back during 12's era. Like, Capaldi had so many episodes that they could have fit so easily into, and the fact that they never came in, it was kind of upsetting for me, but, like, honestly, I'm perfectly happy, because as much as, most people I don't like most Chibnall episodes. The vast majority of Chibnall stuff I just don't enjoy. I'm an apologist for Cold Blood and The Hungry Earth. I think those two episodes are decent. They're not, spectacular, but also they are the two episodes that got me into Doctor Who. Like, I was, for a very long time, scared of Doctor Who. Even the theme tune, something about it just triggered something in me. It was just complete fear. 11th Doctor episode, The Hungry Earth, or Cold Blood, whichever one's the first of that two-parter. I watched that when I was in a pub. Just a random thing. It was on the TV. I was 7 or I wasn't. I was 12. Something like that. 11, 12, something like that. I can't remember what year it actually came out, that episode. I might have been younger than that. I don't know. But in any case, we were on holiday. We were in the pub at the campsite they were staying at, and they were showing Cold Blood or The Hungry Earth, whichever. And it's the first time I watched Doctor Who. Actually, actively. And sure, I'd watched Voyage of the Damned and a bunch of other episodes, hiding behind the couch, hiding behind the sofa. But The Hungry Earth and Cold Blood were the first two episodes where I was actually this is kind of for me. This is kind of the type of thing that I want to watch. So, I have a soft spot for those two episodes specifically. As much as I know they're not perfect by any means, but they introduced the Silurians back into New Who, which I think that Silurian episodes have been good every time that we've seen Silurians, even Madame Vastra. Everything's been pretty good from the Silurians since they've been brought back. And I'm really excited to see what Chibnall can do with the Sea Devils. But in any case, that is going to be it for this thoughts video. This episode, as well as the Legend of the Sea Devils and eventually the Regeneration episode, are going to be part of my mega review discussing everything. Though I do have a mini review just going over my overall thoughts of Series 13 coming out soon-ish in the next few weeks. And otherwise that's going to be it from me. So thanks for watching, subscribe, ring that bell so you never miss an upload. All that other YouTube nonsense that you know and love. And, I'll see you probably for Book of Boba Fett. That's probably the next thing that I'll see you for, unless I get a review finished, which I'm backed up on reviews right now. I'm trying to get as many out as possible, but there's just so much great media is coming out that I'm watching. I'm trying to get reviews out for it all. It's just taking time. But, yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye! It's been a long week. I feel like I could use a vacation.